Now what? She says, I don't know. Get married.
I can't get married. I'm a 30-year-old boy.
We're a generation of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is really the answer we need.
Alrighty, here we go. My name is Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. I wrote this book called The Jossman Method. It is available on Amazon and every damn where you can find books. I just finished this book called Ideal Man, Reviving Masculinity. It is going to be all those same places. I'm waiting on a foreword right now. Once I get that done, I'll be able to get the thing out. But it'll be out in February. Everything else is done. Pretty excited about that. I've been doing a lot of marketing on social media and that kind of stuff. If you guys aren't on my TikTok page, oh my God, do I get some responses on there. It's crazy. Like Instagram it's great and I can connect with other professionals, but like I said, TikTok has just exploded. I get, I'll get in there and try to engage in some debate with feminists, and oh my God, does it go poorly. Like, when I'm on Instagram, for example, and somebody who does what I do, I go in there and I say, I'll make a comment on a post and be like, hey, I disagree with you. Here's why, and blah, blah, blah. I'll get a response from the person who posted it, and we'll go back and forth. There might be a commenter or two that says something, but usually not. Usually it's the poster, and that's that. And we move forward. It's a good discussion, and that's that. But man, on TikTok, that's where I'll talk to, like, I'm always trying to educate myself on this stuff. I don't want to be an asshole. I want to be a person who's educated and trying to improve shit. And, that's where I want to come out. So that means I've got to spend time talking to feminists, which I do. And I always invite them to get on the show. I'm like, come on, be on my show, please. Please, it would be such a good show. We'll go back and forth. It'll be cool. It'll be totally docile and fun and academic, and nobody will. Closest I got was like this lady goes, well, I charge $500 an hour for my time, so if you'll pay my fee, I'll do your show. And I'm like, well, that's the cleverest excuse I've heard yet as to why you won't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get people. But anyway, so I'll make a comment on something like that, and I mean, I might get a response from the poster when I'm talking to a feminist like that, but I will get 50, 100, 200 commenters, just incredibly petty responses, telling me all about my small dick and how I should never have a podcast, and I'm the reason why they're so angry. And oh my God, it's the most emotional wave of anger that you get from that group. Which is crazy. Like I said, I feel like I'm talking to two kind of different sides. I'm talking to the guys who are in the masculinity realm, and then I talk to the feminists, and they react completely differently. Like the masculine side, that they just are academic about it, and are like, hey, well, man, this is what I think, and here's, maybe you misunderstood me. But the feminists, they just tear you up. They're so petty. Like, if you guys get in my TikTok and you look at some of I don't know if you can do that. I'm not that good at it, but my uncle actually called me, and he's like, man, does it ever bother you that those women say those things to you? Like, they're so mean to you, Like, I'm at a football conference, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm like, first of all, I'm like, holy shit, I didn't realize other people could see that. But like, no, it doesn't hurt my feelings or anything. When I'm trying to get a decent debate out of it. Like, I'm trying to, let's have an exchange and learn some shit from each other. That's all I'm trying to do. I don't hate women, for fuck's sake. I can't believe I even have to say that out loud. I mean, I'm sure you could find dozens of men and women who will attest to the fact that I really like women, actually. But man, like I said, that feminist group, they are so upset. Like, they get so worked up so quickly over so little. It blows my mind. And I don't know. It got me thinking about this stuff. And I happened to rewatch Fight Club. You guys saw that clip at the beginning there. And I thought, that kind of sentiment is definitely in this book. I mean, that's what I was shooting for. It was less about the women and more about the men. I mean, I'm not trying to boo-hoo women at all. I mean, what I'm trying to do is empower dudes. Like I told you, I've got that like credo. It's on my website. It's, I want to empower masculinity in men so that they'll build kingdoms, so that you'll make your world better. And I don't define it in the book, but I'll define it for you now. I mean, your kingdom is your world, not the world, your world. Okay, your world is your family, your job, your friend circle, your community, your neighborhood. I mean, the people that you are in direct contact with, and maybe one person out from that, right? So reasonably close contact. Like you might know your neighbor, you might know her, but you don't know him. But if you have a good relationship with her, then that kind of extends to him, right? Something like that. That is your kingdom. And it is your duty as a man to do the best you can, to lead, to be all these things that I am putting out here, to be all these things. That's what I'm trying to get you to be and to do. It's a positive thing. It's supposed to make you better. But, and this is the big but, and this is what I want to cover today. It's the, generations of men raised by women. And here's what that really means, okay? Now, Brad Pitt says that, Tyler Durden says that in the movie, but I will give you details today on what that actually is. So let's start from the beginning. I'll give you some numbers. You know that the divorce rate's more than half, right? So in those situations, most of those, you get married to have kids. That's why most people get married. You get divorced, now you got a single parent situation, and 80.5% of the time, that parent's going to be a mom. Okay, and I'm not going to argue why that is. I mean, I can tell you, you guys saw my interview with that social worker a few months ago, and she specifically said that if a boy says, they'll say to the kids, they'll say, hey, who do you want to be with? And if a boy or girl says, we want to be with dad, they're like, well, dad must be fucking with them in the head. He must be brainwashing them. They're going with mom. Like, that's what social workers do. They put them with women. They put them with the moms. So in the end result, you get 80.5% of single parent households are women. Okay, now, not saying shit about women, just saying that's the situation. All right. And then when you look at the schools, so let's think about that life, that from a boy's perspective. I'm at home and my mom's there. I see my dad every couple of weekends. So my mom's raising me. And then I go to school, and in the elementary school nationwide, 89% of teachers at the elementary level are women. So you got mom at home, and then you've got a female teacher. And then who's your mom hang out with? She hangs out with other women, probably a lot of them, other divorced women, or women with kids. You're having play dates or whatever the fuck you're doing. So you're women all around you. And then you get to middle school, and it's still like 72% female. And in high school, it's 64% female teachers. So unless you get into a sport like football or wrestling or some place where you're going to have that male role model, and even then it's only a couple hours a day, you're going to get to 18 and you might not have really had, full-time access to a good role model. And by full-time, I'm going to tell you 6 to 8 hours a day, which is what you'll get at school, right? Or figure your home life when you factor in the weekends and, your hours from 3 o'clock when you get home till you go to bed, plus the weekend. Full-time male role model, you're not going to see much of it. So then now you're 18, and what are you going to do? You go to college, right? So you go to college, and, feminist agenda dominates secondary or higher education. Everybody knows that. Like, I got this clip from this feminist talking about how in order to be a man in college, you've got to be this smoothed down feminist version of one, or you're offensive to everybody. Like, you really can't. It's tough to get through college unless you're at a tech school or something and retain masculinity. I mean, even on the football team, you're going to have to tone it way down sitting in class or doing anything else. You've got to be, you got to appease the feminists. That's how that works. Then you go get a job, and who's running your HR department? You know what I mean? It's going to be women. So when you upset somebody at work, you're going to sit down in front of a woman and explain yourself, and you've got to play by those rules. I mean, shit. Let's just look at Michigan here. I've got a female governor, and I'll tell you what, her agenda, I think, is very transparent. Like during the whole coronavirus bullshit, I mean, I think, like I said, transparently was trying to become the vice president-elect to roll with Joe Biden. And when that didn't happen, you could see a lot of things change. But leading up to that point, she was very, hey, look at me. And what she did with that spotlight time was talk about feminist stuff. She'd be supposed to be, so every week she's supposed to be giving us an update on the situation, and she'd just, parade up woman after gay guy to talk about her agenda, and she'd say it. She's like, anybody who thinks female rights haven't come a long way, and look at this, look at all this female leadership. Like, that's all she did was talk about how great she was at that. So that's how my state gets run. So from the top down, that's what's happening here. And again, I'm not complaining. I run my life as I will. What I'm telling you is, this is the environment that men are in. That's what it is. This is what you're going to see, and this is the big one. Over 80% of consumer decisions are made by women. And let's think about how big that is, okay? Consumer decisions. So, all right, what you buy at your house? If you're a married guy and you're listening to this, who's buying your groceries? Well, she probably is. Who's deciding furniture? What cars you're going to buy? Where the house is going to be? If you're remodeling it, what you're going to get? What's on TV? What kind of clothes the kids are wearing? She's probably deciding most of that shit. Right? I mean, that makes sense. And marketers know that. I mean, think about your life today. Think about your day. This is how important marketing is. Everything you did today, almost all of it was an attempt for somebody to take your money. Let's walk through it, okay? This is a capitalist country. Everybody's here essentially to make money. And I'm not judging that at all. I'm just telling you that this is what it is. So you got your typical day, right? You get up. You probably check your phone first thing. There's a big one, all right? What are you going to see in there? You're going to see ads. That Facebook tracks your shit, so they know what you're interested in. They try to feed you more of it, right? You're going to look at it. Basically everything you see on a screen is going to go that way, right? You get up, you go into the bathroom, all your things around you, you bought somewhere. They were marketed to you, right? You get in your car. You had to decide to buy that at some point, and what made you make those decisions? It was probably marketers. Like, I think Dodge trucks, they try to specifically do this. Ram trucks, they try to associate themselves with masculine things to try to get dudes to buy them. Think about the TV show Yellowstone. If you're not watching that, you're probably living under a rock. But every single truck they drive is a Dodge, and they make a big deal about it. Dodge, well, look at this Dodge truck. Look at this Ram. Like every single truck, it's a Dodge. That's marketing. All right, that's everywhere you go. All right, so you go to work. Think all the billboards you see on the way there. Maybe you're listening to the radio. You're going to have commercials pop up. Marketing. Okay, and even if you're a guy listening to that shit, they know that you're probably married, and you're going to have to get that decision past your wife, right? So I want to buy a Ram truck. You're going to have to sell that to your wife, essentially. She's going to have to check off on it, right? Now, you're a partnership. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just telling you that's the situation. So there's the marketing thing. You go through your work day. All right, it's time to go to lunch. Every place you go, there's signs out. There's stuff everywhere trying to get you to spend your money with them, right? And if 80% of those decisions are made by women, well, then that's who they're trying to get. If they're going to err, they're going to err on the side of the feminine. That's what these marketers are going to do. So you as a man are going to get even less, I guess, contact with like real male shit. I mean, the only time you're really going to get that is when you're with your buddies. And even then, all of them have been kind of steered by the same marketing you have. Like, my buddies are awesome. I've got good friends. There's no doubt about that. But sometimes when we're talking, I can hear them out of habit adjust what they say because they don't want to, because it's a habit. They have to work in an office all day, and then they're married and they're with their wife at home. They've got to adjust these things. And I'll remind them, hey, no, you don't have to do that here. We're at the cabin or we're at a bar or wherever we are. Like, just relax. You know what I mean? So that's the world you live in. All right. It's led by women. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not. Okay. Because I tell you, I know I'll get blown up for this podcast. And I've never one time You can rewind it all the way back and say, this is fucking stupid. Never one time have I said that. I am just exposing you to this. Okay, this is what the world is that you live in. What you will hear, that feminist agenda is, oh, it's a man's world and men out-earn women. Well, that's a very overgeneralized way to say that. If you actually look in the statistics, I've said this before on the show, a woman who is in my position, is my age, roughly my IQ, same education level, same amount of ambition, I suppose, that woman is going to make 17% more than I do. They'll make 117,000 when I make 100,000. That's how that will go. Now, do women make the same decisions as men? I mean, not usually. When somebody's sick at home, when there's a kid, you got two parents working and a kid's sick at home, who's probably going to take care of that? That's going to be mom, right? Like, she's going to go home. She's going to take the day off, or she's going to leave early or whatever and go take care of that kid. Not saying that's bad. But as an employer, that that's what's kind of going to happen when you hire a woman. If she's got kids, you're looking at that as the situation. This is what's probably going to happen. And on average, this is nationwide, men work. Let's look at pharmacists. I think this is where I got this number. Matter of fact, I know it is. Pharmacists nationwide, men make more than women. It's exactly the same job. You're dealing with exactly the same drugs. You're doing everything the same. However, men in general work 2 hours more per week than women do. So they make more. Men are far more likely to buy the drugstore that they work in than women are. So they make more. So if you just say, oh, male pharmacists make a lot more than female pharmacists, on the surface, that looks bad. But when you look into it, rightfully so. They're working more and they're buying the business. That's how you see what I'm saying? So, I mean, look into the statistics before you go nuts with them. Okay. So that's what you're going to hear is that, all right, men make more than women, and it just isn't true. And let's put this to the test. Now, we established earlier that we live in a capitalist country, right? So everybody out there is trying to make money. And I think that's awesome. I think that it's meritocracy. In general, you go out and you hustle. Now, he who hustles harder, or she who hustles harder, makes more money, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's how it should be. So that being the case, with the money, let's think about it this way. If I were a business owner and I own a few businesses, and I knew that I could pay women less than men, why the fuck wouldn't I do that? Like, I'd fire every guy who works for me and hire just women because I can pay them less to do the same job. Why wouldn't I do that? There's no way I'd be the only one who would think of that. Like, I deal with lots of other businesses, and let me tell you, they're not doing that. It's not happening because you can't do that. A job's a job. And in general, there are professions where women just tend to gravitate that way and men tend to gravitate the other way. It's a sad state of affairs. I mean, the agenda seems to be to get women to act more like men and to get men to act more like women. Like, I see these commercials now, and it used to be a woman happily, I don't know, folding clothes or doing some household task, and now I see them and it's a dude doing it. Or there's like, it used to be the way that you arrange a family in the background of a commercial or of a TV show. It would be dad and kind of everybody around, and now it's not. It's mom's the center, and dad's kind of this, he's just like another one of the kids. Like, the dynamics are terrible, and it doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't give a shit about that. That doesn't affect how I live, but it does affect how young men live. They are, all animals are trying to figure out their definition of normal from the time they're very, very little. It's been, I mean, you might not know this, but I'll tell you. If adult people didn't walk around on 2 feet, little kids would never strive to walk. Like, maybe they'd learn to do it eventually, but if they were raised by wolves, they wouldn't walk around on 2 feet. You've got to see it to learn to do it. And if what you're seeing, again, let's go back to that boy who was raised by mom, goes to a school dominated by women, goes to a job goes to college that's dominated by women. And I'm not making that up. I mean, in 1960, and this is in the book too, women earned like 39% of bachelor's degrees. And, in 2010, women earn like 62% of bachelor's degrees. Like, everything is flip-flopped. And I mean, like I said, I'm not judging that, but know what it is. You know, this is where the book comes from. I mean, it occurred to me that maybe men have just never learned to be men. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many of them that were raised by women, and maybe they just don't know how. So that was my intention behind the book, and really let's think about how that extrapolates out. Like, let's go back to the TikTok thing. I mean, I get just torn apart by feminists. I mean, or women at all, and we'll call them retail feminists, because lots of women will call themselves feminists and don't really know what the NOW, National Organization of Women in New York, is actually trying to do, what their lobby is doing. They really don't know that, and they don't understand how negative it is. I think up until about 1990, the feminist movement was a very good thing. You know, I got no problem with equality. Let's all do the same. You know what I mean? If you want to do this and I'll do that, there's just no reason in a country like the United States that there should be any glass ceilings for anyone. I couldn't be more behind that. And I've said that before lots of times. Yeah, I couldn't get more behind that. I don't know. I'm getting off task here, but I'll go back to this thing. Like I said, the book is trying to help guys remember what being a guy was supposed to be. You know, I've got a lot of references in there from guys who lived 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago who were really good at being men. And yeah, that's a thing. And no, it is not. It shouldn't be offensive to you to be a man. You know what I mean? That's how that shit works. You know, there's an opposite thing there. So if we get to this world where, and we're getting there, where women act more like men and men act more like women, I don't understand what the purpose of that is, but that's kind of what's happening. Women are trying to achieve in the career world, and you know, men now are doing more of the home stuff, and why that's appropriate, I don't know. But if that's your dynamic and it's working for you, great. But here's the thing: you might be able to change what's happening up here in your forebrain. You might be able to think, hey, this is what I want. But your genetics and your gut you can't change that. Okay, and what I mean is this: I have gone on dates with women who are hard-charging, career-oriented women. And there's nothing wrong with that, but this is what it appears, and it's not just me. I've had this conversation with dozens of men. When you're that, it just isn't that attractive. Like, because I'm that, okay? I, like I said, own several businesses, and I'm reasonably ambitious, and I try to build myself and my career and make money and do cool shit. I'm not really looking for somebody who can do everything I can do. I'm looking for somebody who can do the shit that I can't do. You know what I mean? So that opposite thing needs to be there for me. So it isn't that you hear this all the time, oh, you're intimidated by an independent, strong woman. No, I'm not. Why in the fuck would that intimidate me? Because I can handle that, whatever. I've got plenty of female friends who are that way. But the reason that there's no romantic interest on my end is because of that. I'm not attracted to something that's just like me. That doesn't help me. And from the opposite end, okay, yeah, it's not intimidation. It's just I'm not attracted to it. That's all. It doesn't do anything for me. And I don't know. To me, it just seems kind of not genuine. It seems like fake or something. It's not. I don't know. I wish I could describe it, but that's a gut thing. Like, I can't really put it into words up here because it's just like either you're attracted or you're not, right? You can't really control that. And I think that's what's happening with women. You know, they're these guys who they're not men. They're not like acting strongly, stereotypically, traditionally men. They're not acting that way. Women are not attracted to that. I mean, you guys have heard this over and over again, that the assholes are the ones who get laid all the time. Well, the assholes kind of have that edge of alpha in them. And something about the core of those women, they respond to it. It's true. That's how it goes. Now, that guy might not make a very good partner, but the opposite, the real soft guy who's great at talking about his feelings and awesome at helping you pick out window decorations, he's just like you, ladies. And I'm sure you don't want someone who's just like you. You'll get bored of them. You won't respect them. And that's what happens. I think a lot of times, and I've had this conversation with women too, And when I say this statement to them, it blows them away. It's like I reached right inside their brain and pulled something out that maybe they didn't even know was happening. And it's this: what you're saying you want, like Brene Brown, right? The Brene Brown book that everybody likes so much. Oh, let's be vulnerable. Men need to learn to be vulnerable. All right, hey, that's a great idea. That is a great idea. And maybe occasionally you can share something as a man that you are a little insecure about. But if you break down and cry and you're emotional and you're vulnerable, something in the core of that woman, she's going to be repulsed by that shit. She's going to. Your genetics, your core, your gut, they're hundreds of thousands of years old. I mean, you're descended from men who fought and were violent to stay alive. And women are descended from these women that knew from an instinctual basis that they want to be with the strongest man to protect them and provide for them. Bring home meat. Keep me safe. You know what I mean? Like, your core, you can't change that shit. You can decide you want to think about different shit, but so the women a lot of times who say, I want Clark Kent. I want that guy who can really be in touch with his feelings and really sit down and talk with me, and let's watch some rom-coms together and just cuddle, and that'll get old for you, ladies. I'm telling you. It will, because your core wants Superman. It's true. I mean, look at every other animal that's out there. You want to believe that we're not animals, but we are. There's a whole lot more of our brain that is dedicated to these gut instinctual things than there is your very modern frontal cortex, which is where you do your complex reasoning. I'm reading this book called The Happiness Hypothesis. It's pretty good so far. Deep psychology stuff, really interesting. This guy talks about how, I talk a lot about the relationship between your heart and your mind. And I've often said that the difference between men and women is that, men's hearts and minds are much closer to each other than women's are. A lot of times what women say they want and what they really, really want can be a lot further apart than men's. Men's are a lot closer. Like, I'm hungry. Right? You can't fuck that up. I want to have sex. Can't fuck that up. Where women, a lot of times could be different. So he talks about this guy in the book, Happiness Hypothesis. He talks about that the relationship, and I'm going to really overgeneralize here, but I talk about heart and mind. He talks about them in different terms, but the way he describes it is this. Rather than, I've always said that your mind is this adult who is helping to raise and motivate the child, which is your emotions, your heart, right? He says it this way. He says that your mind is a man or a woman or whatever, a person riding an elephant, and that your emotions are that elephant. So at any time, it's very different than driving a car. Okay, your car's not going to do anything you don't ask it to do. But an animal, like, you can't just make it walk over a cliff; it won't do it. All right. So essentially, you're on that elephant, but it's kind of taking you for the ride, right? You have a little control maybe, but not all that much. He actually says it this way. He says that your mind is like a lawyer who is representing the elephant. And how he describes that, I think, is super interesting. What he says is that he doesn't make any decisions at all. The elephant does what it does, and the lawyer comes in after the fact and rationalizes it and tells you, no, here's why we did this, here's why we did that. And he talks about all these different brain experiments, and he really lays it out. But essentially, that's it. I would tell you that I take great satisfaction in trying to have that person on the elephant be as in control as possible. As in control as possible. Right? Where I try to very much be aware of what my emotions are feeling, and I control them as much as I can. I don't let them make me do things that my mind doesn't think are okay for me, are not good for me. Right? Don't be reactionary. Don't freak out. Don't make knee-jerk reactions. You think things through, right? Don't let emotions determine your behavior. That's a real male thing. Like, I talk about that in here in several different spots. I talk about it in calm. I talk about it in accountable. I talk about it in honest. That concept is all through the whole book, that you have to be responsible for your emotions, and make sure that they are as little impact on your behaviors as possible. And I wonder if maybe for women it might be different than that. And I don't say that in an insulting way. I just think that there's a little more emotion there. Maybe the elephant's a little stronger in that case. And I got to tell you, if that were me, I wouldn't like that very much. I wouldn't like having a thing that controls me rather than me controlling it. And again, I'm not saying that that's how anybody works all the time, but anyway, that's the world we live in. I'm going to call this episode Womenland. That's where we are. I mean, and that's what I'm trying to do with trying to get into schools and talk about this. Like, there are so many boys who, what's the back end of this? All right. A lot of you maybe are listening to this going, well, so what? So what? That's the world we live in. Deal with it. Okay. Yeah. And I've always been, hey, make your boat stronger. Don't try to change the tides. That can't be done. Right. But, I have a background in education. I want to help people. I want to train people. I want to move things forward. And so I've been reaching out to schools and trying to get this idea across. Hey, these are all the influences that a young boy is going to have in your classroom. And it's probably a big reason why, boys are anywhere from 65 to 95% of your behavior referrals. They're the ones who get written up in class. And I think there's lots of reasons for that. I think a lot of times it's female teachers don't really understand boys, don't really get it. And so the boys don't have anything that's engaging them. Like, they don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big part of it. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to get it in front of some school districts and talk about, in front of some teachers. And, hey, here are some ways you can, engage these boys and make things easier for them, because this is the environment they're in. And if you don't, you're contributing to a world where you've got lots of women who are going to tell you there's no good men out there anymore. You know what I mean? Because that cycle just never stops. If you're not creating good men, then there won't be any good men out there. And then the women are complaining, and then they're pissed off at men. And men aren't happy. You know what I mean? I mean, you look back at the numbers. I can quote statistics at you like crazy, but people really don't get married as much anymore. Marriage rates have decreased over the last 10 years. And they're going down significantly. And I think that's, women will tell you, well, because we don't need no man. And men will tell you, why the fuck would I get married? At the back end of that, what do I have? If it goes bad, which it more than often does, more often than not does, she's going to get my kids. She's going to take my house. That's how it's going to go. That's a big risk. I don't know if I want to do that. That's why it's happening. And is marriage an end goal? I think it is. I think that creates a stable society. I think that creates a better world. You have now 2 parents at home to raise good men, to raise good boys, and improve the world. I think that's an end goal. It should be. Anyway, Womenland. My name is Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. I wrote this book called The Jossman Method, and I wrote this book called Ideal Man, Reviving Masculinity. That'll be out in the next, certainly by the end of February. My goal is by Valentine's Day again, just waiting on that forward. But I hope in some way today's episode helped you to get your shit together. Have a great week.